Hello and welcome to Just Vintage Crochet and welcome to the 1880s. I have this really fascinating book. It is the Encyclopedia of Needlework by Elise de Dilmont. It was originally published in 1884 or 1886, one of the two. Either way, it's a French book that has been, whenever it was first published, it was translated into 17 different languages within the first, I think they said within the first 60 years of the book being published. So this is a really wonderful book. You can find this book online. Okay, this pattern really stood out to me in the book. This book is more of a teaching book. It has all different kinds of mediums. It's got metalworking, embroidery, knitting, tatting, all different types of mediums. And most of what you find in the knitting and crochet parts is like this. It's teaching of the stitches. There's very few whole patterns in the book, but I found this one, came upon this one anyway, and I fell in love with it. Look at this. Isn't that lovely? I just love it. Because it is a sort of a blanket, they call it a design for a cot cover. You can make it whatever size you want. You can use any size yarn you want. It doesn't matter. It's not a wearable. This is a French book. Okay, let's get into this pattern. I will be using, they are light worsted weight yarns, one from Ice. The pattern does call for white and light blue, and I want to keep it that way. This is sort of a light minty, it's sort of a light mint, so it's the closest to light blue that I have. And instead of white, I will be using this cream. We will be following the original pattern for the center portion here, but I will tell you, whenever I was working with this, it was quite thin and it was a little bit time consuming. I would like to offer an alternate. So I'm going to teach you how to do it the original way, which is lovely, but it is thin. It's a bit see-through, not very thick for a blanket. And again, it's time consuming. But if you prefer to stick to the originals, which I highly respect, I'm going to show you that. And then I'm going to show you an alternate using one of my most favorite Tunisian crochet stitches. First time I ever came across this stitch was in an 1860s pattern out of the Ladies' Godey's book, which is an American publication, and they called it the Princess Royal Stitch. So let's get right into the pattern. I will be using a 4.25 millimeter Tunisian hook and then a 5 millimeter hook for all of the decorative bits. Reason being, Tunisian crochet is quite thick and plush and chunky. So even with working with such a fine Tunisian hook, your work is still going to come out quite thick as if you were working with one of these. And since the majority of this pattern is not going to be worked in the alternate way, which will be Tunisian, I went with a 5 millimeter so that it could balance out properly the Tunisian. So I would recommend doing that if you want to go with my method. I would go with a Tunisian hook quite a bit smaller. Like this yarn calls for a 5 millimeter hook. So I'm using a 4.25. You can use a 4 and that would work. And you can use a 4.5 and that would still work. And then a 5 millimeter hook just to keep things balanced. Okay, so we have materials. We need 2 colors, and the amount, I don't know. That's entirely up to you because it's entirely up to how big you want to make this. A baby blanket, a throw blanket for the couch, or do you want to make it like a duvet cover, you know, like for your bed? That's ambitious, and I am here for it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how we're going to make the original first, and then I will get into an alternate stitch and show you how that looks. Okay, so for the original, I'm going to go ahead and work with a 4.5 millimeter hook, and let's start with a chain of 29. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll be right back. We have our 29 chains. Let's skip 3. 1, 2, 3. And in the 4th stitch, draw up a loop. And in the 5th stitch, draw up a loop. Pull through all 3. Now they say that this creates a picot on the side. We're going to have, with the original pattern, you will have these bumpy picots that stick out all along the side that are meant to be worked into later on. So now what we do is the next 2 stitches Oh no, first, I'm sorry, first we have to chain 2. Then the next 2 stitches over, we just draw up a loop from each stitch and pull through all 3. Chain 2, draw up a loop into the next 2 stitches, 1, next stitch over, 2, draw through all 3, chain 2. Next 2 stitches over, 1, next stitch, 2, draw through all 3, chain 2. It's a really neat stitch with a wonderfully lovely texture. So go ahead and work this all the way to the end. Okay, here I'm at my last 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now we will chain 3, and this is to form our picot. We are meant to work back into the first chain of the 3 chains, like a picot, and draw up a loop. Into the next stitch over the top of the next stitch, draw up a loop, or top of the first stitch, sorry. Draw through all 3, and then it's going to leave this sort of picot along the side here. Now we chain 2. It's basically a 1-row repeat. And into, you can see here that we have 2 chains. I'll even turn it around this way so that you can properly see the 2 chains. 1 and 2. When you're looking at it this way, it looks like this. 1 and 2. You're going to work into the first chain and into the top of the next stitch, just like we did along our foundation chain. So, going into the second chain stitch over, we draw up a loop, and into the top of our stitch, we draw up a loop, pull through all 3, chain 2, and here is my second chain stitch over the top of my stitch, pull through all 3, chain 2. What a fun stitch, right? I will say though, as far as for making a blanket though, it is a bit time consuming because these aren't made in little squares. These are made in very long strips. You make this in the length of the blanket you want, essentially, not counting this elaborate border. Again, like in the last video, one thing I love about these Victorian era pieces is it's quite plain in the middle, but the focus of it is this just ornate, much like a picture frame. You know how some of the most valuable picture frames in the world came from that time frame. It's because there's a beautiful border. But you do need to make this so if you want your blanket to be 7 feet long, it's going to be 7 feet of this, which is a little bit time consuming when you think about it in the grand scheme of how long does it take to make a blanket. The stitch I have in mind is a very, very fast stitch that offers a fascinating texture that is really quite sleek and lovely, and also sticks to the spirit of the pattern, as this was a really popular stitch for Tunisian crochet in the 1860s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Today, we call it the Tunisian full stitch. Did I chain 2? But back then it was called the Princess Royal stitch, which I love. Okay, so we just keep working this back and forth. I'm going to show you how this looks with those little picots, which after looking at the picture, I felt really comfortable with altering the pattern ever so slightly, because the little picots that the design calls for don't apparently appear to come into play. Like they're not noticeable at all. So you can live without them, and the pattern should still look essentially the same. Isn't that a beautiful stitch texture? Oh, that is lovely. So let's work our way to the end here and make another one of those side picots. Like, I have nothing against this stitch pattern at all. I think it is extremely lovely, and I think it would make for a beautifully lacy shawl or scarf, something a little smaller. Okay, so on the end here, whenever I first played with this, this is where I kind of got hung up. And then I realized just work in these next 2 chains and you'll be fine. And this is really the only time you have to put up with this. So working in this chain and the very next chain over, complete your stitch. Now chain 3, turn, and into our first chain, we complete our picot by drawing up a loop. And into the top of that stitch, the first stitch, we draw up a loop, complete chain 2, and we just carry on working into the second stitch, chain stitch over, and into the top of the actual stitch. And you can see it's creating, here is what one of the picots looks like fully. It really sticks out. You won't have much of a picot down here, and that's where we first started. So this is what the picots are actually meant to look like, to stick way out like this, because they're picots, they stick out. So you'll keep working that back and forth for as many feet as you want the blanket to be long, even if it's only 2 or 2.5 feet or 3 feet if you're going to do a small bassinet blanket, baby blanket. And then that's it. Then we work the rest. We start the border. Now let me show you the alternate. Again, I love this stitch. I wish this stitch had a name, but it doesn't seem to. It's just so neat. Very textured, and it's 2-sided. Okay, let's play around with an alternate. So this wants us to start with a chain of 29, and that is because the first 3 of those chain becomes our first picot. Well, I started with the Tunisian, since with Tunisian we don't have to chain any extra stitches to turn. I started with a chain of 25, and it came out with the exact same measurements. So grabbing my 4.25 hook, I'm going to chain 29, and I will be right back. Okay, so with my 25 chains, let me show you what I did here. I initially started this as you would a normal Tunisian full stitch, meaning I started it as such without the regular Tunisian simple stitch on the bottom. But whenever you go to bind off, it creates a Tunisian simple stitch look just by nature of the way that you bind off. So in the second sample that I made, I started off with the Tunisian simple stitch for the first row, but it did create an ever so slight additional tiny little gap. You really can't notice it, especially whenever it's laying flat. You really don't notice it that much. But I did decide to make my first row Tunisian simple stitch to match the bind off row, just because of symmetry. So that's what I'm going to teach you how to do here. So let's go ahead and pick up all of our loops. We should have 25 loops on our hook by the time we get down to the other end. And I'm telling you, you're just gonna, I need to make this first one a little tighter. You're just gonna absolutely love this stitch. Look how pretty this is. Isn't this lovely? It is so pretty. And I think it will work with a pattern like this. I really do. And you can see I already started incorporating the second color because I wanted to know what I was doing with this pattern before I jumped on here and act like I knew what I was doing. That, and I wanted to have 2 sample panels made up for you, as I'm not going to create the full length. This is just going to be a sample. So my samples are 6 inches wide by 8 inches long to create just a sort of a mini strip for, again, the sample. I will be right back when I get down to the other end. Okay, let's work a normal return pass. And throughout this entire Tunisian portion, the return pass will always be yarn over, pull through 1, then pull through 2, and 2 all the way. Just like any regular Tunisian crochet stitch. Okay, now let's go ahead and work 1 forward pass in Tunisian simple stitch, or in an Afghan stitch. The stitch of many names. So we're just going to pick up the vertical bars and collect loops onto our hook, going into the bar and drawing up a loop and then holding on to it all the way to the end, and then work another normal return pass, and that should be our starter to keep things a bit symmetrical. Okay, now let's start our first row of the Royal Princess stitch, or the Tunisian full stitch. So with the Tunisian full stitch or Royal Princess stitch, it is a 2-row repeat. Our first row, we will start by working into, you have to open this up to really see how. So, okay, we're going to start by working into this first space here. The next row up, we will skip the first space and start by working in the second space. Then the next row after that, we will work in the first space. The rows have to be staggered to create this sort of almost chain linking. Now, with the Tunisian full stitch, if you start in the first space, you skip the last space. And if you're on a row where you're skipping the first space and you're starting in the second space, you work all the way and into the very last space, and that keeps it straight. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Be sure to keep your yarn really close to the hook to keep your borders clean. Go into that first space right there and draw up a loop. Then into the next space over, draw up a loop. With Tunisian full stitch, we only work in these spaces between the vertical bars. It's very, very easy. You really can just use your fingers to feel where your next stitch is. You can watch TV working a stitch like this. You just use your fingers to see. You can feel the open, and there you go. You just push your finger out of the way. Really easy. I love this stitch. It's the easiest Tunisian stitch, and yet it looks so, I don't know, it looks so intricate and complicated, but it's the easiest of the stitches, in my opinion. It's simpler than the Tunisian simple stitch. Or it's as simple, even. Okay, so since we worked into the very, very first space right on the edge, we're going to skip the very last space, which is right here. And you're going to turn your work. So not here, but right here where it looks like the top of a single crochet. When I first learned how to do Tunisian crochet, this wasn't made very clear to me, and I used to work into this stitch right here, and all of my work would start to Christmas tree. So you want to make sure that you always skip this one. It's always the one just below it. And you want to go into that, what looks like a single crochet, go into both loops and pull up a low stitch. You don't want a high stitch here. Draw through one. Now you don't have to worry about how high the stitch is. Just go ahead and pull through two, all the way to the end. Okay, now for row 2, we're going to skip the first space, and this particular stitch makes it really easy to figure out which row you're on. You see how this one here is really closed off, but the next stitch over is quite open. That's because this is coming right out of the first, holding it really close to the edge, but this one here is really open. Also, you could just count. We're supposed to have 25 stitches. So keep your yarn really close around the hook on the first stitch and draw up a loop. Then draw up another one the next stitch over, next space over, and you can draw up a little taller on your loops now. You just want to keep your first and last stitch really close to the hook so that you don't get big ugly floppy stitches on the side that are unmanageable. So now, because we're starting in the second stitch over, we're going to end in the very last space. We're not going to skip that space. And of course, you could also just count. Remember that the first loop on your hook, that one that we kept tight, always counts as number 1. By the time you get to the end, you should have 24 stitches and needing to only work one more, which will be on your sides, the side of your work there on the edge. So we're going to work this all the way to the very edge, getting into that last space. Draw up a loop. That makes stitch number 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Then, again, we're going to skip over this. Even though it looks like a similar stitch, it looks like it could be a single crochet, you want the one just below it, right here. The one that's straight on the edge. That is always your last working stitch, right there. Draw up a close loop to the hook, not super tight, but close. Pull through 1, then yarn over and pull through 2 all the way back. Now the next row, we're going to start by working in this space right on the edge of the work, which means by the time we get to the end here, and you can see the end is not very open, it's pretty closed up. So that should be an indicator that we're going to skip over that space there. It's just not very accessible. It's really more closed than this, for example. See, this one here is quite closed off. So that tells you, oh, okay, I'm not working in that space. And you can count your rows by counting the side, what looks like little single crochets. 1, 2, 3, we've already worked 3 rows. For my sample, I worked 27 rows. I ended on an odd number, and I would recommend that you end your rows on an odd number as well. It doesn't say to do that in the pattern, but the sample that I'm playing with over here, as far as the border goes, has so far been working out, which means ending on an odd number was very helpful. So now I can see that first one opened right up for me. So there we go. 1. Well, let me start by working this close to the edge. Actually, I'll work it not close to the edge so you can see how that looks. So I'm not going to dramatically pull up on it like some, people shown an example will do. I'm just going to show you just normal. And it's almost as long as the regular stitch. And you'll get a chance to see how that looks. Oh yeah, I'll make this one long too. It creates for a little bit of instability, and it's loose, it's floppy, it's ugly, it's not easy to work in because we are going to be working in these stitches. So try to keep your stitch pretty close to the hook. So yeah, this row here, you can see how it just opens right up, whereas down here it didn't open right up. But here it's opening right up. That tells me, I'm working my first space. And there we go. So you will work this back and forth for as many feet as you need to. And I'm telling you, it is so much faster. I worked those 27 rows in 1 hour, 45 minutes. It was 45 minutes because do you guys like to watch like American Justice or those like true crime shows? I like to watch true crime sometimes. And I watched one full episode of American Justice and it was 42 minutes long. So about 45 minutes it took me to make 27 rows. And 27 rows is 8 inches long. That's 27 rows right there. So it works up a whole lot faster. And when you roll it up, it looks like a churro. All right, so go ahead and work your panels using either stitch that you wish, and then come on back and let's get into the beautiful ornate border. Okay, now that we're just going to pretend this is as long as a strip that you need. So using our imaginations, now that you have these strip as long as you need, and you will need to make many of them for as wide as you want your blanket to be. So it could be 5 strips, 8 strips, 4 strips. Let's go ahead and bind off. You're going to bind off with some slip stitches. So go under the vertical bar, and you can't do this through the space or else you'll just still have a big open space. Go through the vertical bar, draw up a loop, and pull it through the loop on your hook to create a slip stitch. What this will do is this chain, this top chain right here that you create on your return pass, working a slip stitch will push that chain down and fill in the gaps and make it look just like a simple Tunisian stitch like we started with. So you'll watch it literally push it down. And there it goes, it fills it right in. So you go from having open work to filled in. So we're going to slip stitch across the entire piece, and then you will cut and weave in those tails and grab your second color. Oops. And then right on the end there. And there you go. You will cut and then grab your traditional crochet needle, and we will get started with your second color on the edge. Okay, now we can put the Tunisian hook aside. Grab the regular, I'm going to use a 5mm hook. Now with this pattern here, we aren't going to work all around the rectangles or the strips. We're just going to work along these inner portions here that are going to be joined together. All of this will be added later, and you can see how it's broken up. You can see how originally only the inner sides were worked, and then later, look at how smooth it is. It just comes around, and this was added along the top. So that's what we're going to do, and I'll show you what I did already. That's it right there. So this I'm going to use for my inner portion, and then this one here will be the side of the next inner portion, and then these two will be worked together like this, and once I'm done, I'll work all around the piece. Okay, so it looks like because I didn't make my strips too long, they're going to be wider than they are long. That's fine. It's fine. It's a sample. But anyways, that is how this pattern is worked, and I think that's just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and start along this edge here. So go into the stitch, and with Tunisian crochet, the edge of your work looks just like single crochets. So it's really, really easy to find your stitch. Grab your alternate color, and I'm going to show you how to work this all the way to the end, and especially for those who don't have the right number of stitches at the end, it's not the end of the world. We're going to work around that. Okay, so join with a slip stitch and then a single crochet. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 2, and in the third stitch over, work another single crochet. Now this is how we get around having those little side picots that frankly, I can't even see. These edges look very straight. I don't see the picots. I just don't see it. So when I really took a close look at the pattern, I'm like, I can totally get away with doing this without the picots. The picots are not vital. They're almost inconsequential. So 2, 3. I don't think inconsequential was the right word, but it made me feel smart saying it, so I'm going to stick with it. Skip 2 and work a single crochet in the 3rd stitch over. And this is the repeat all the way to the end of just the one edge. Skip 2, work a single, 1, 2, 3 chains, skip 2, work a single, 1, 2, 3, skip 2, one, 2, 3, skip, chain 3, skip 2, work into the 3rd. Now mine is going to line up fine. This is actually my 3rd stitch right here, the top portion here. But if you find that you have 3 stitches on the end or only 1 stitch, so let's pretend you only have 1 stitch, that's fine. Just chain 2 then and go ahead and just skip the 1 stitch and work your single crochet. What we're going to work into these spaces is still going to fill it out just fine. And let's say you have 3 stitches on the end. That's okay. Work your chain 3 and skip those 3 stitches and go ahead and work your single crochet, and it's going to be fine because the stitch we're going to work in here is going to pull it up. It's going to pull this up, which will straighten out whatever you have down here. It's just fine. So that's how we're going to end that. We go ahead and cut. And then you're going to grab your main color again. And for me, that's going to be this cream. I don't know why I wanted to say 3. I guess because it's like a 3-weight. It's my 3-weight cream. Let's get all kinds of technical here. Okay. Now with the right side of the work still facing you, go into your first space, your first chain 3 space. And work a chain 3. That counts as sort of like a double crochet. This isn't called for in the pattern, and how we're going to end this is also not called for in the pattern. You have to kind of improvise with these Victorian era patterns, regardless what language it was originally spoken in. They just sort of expect you to know, and also they want you to use the photo to make it work as well. I mean, they go out of their way to provide these beautifully detailed carved etchings or engravings, so use them. Okay, yarn over once, and we're not going to count this chain 3 as nothing. 1, 2, you know what, let me draw up on that a little taller. Yarn over, go into the chain space and draw way up. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You should have 9 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Pull through the first 8. Now you have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through those 2. Chain 2, they call this a pineapple stitch. And yarn over and into the next chain 3 space over, repeat that, pull way up. You want these to be puffy. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 wraps will give you 9 total loops on the hook. Pull through the first 8, then yarn over and pull through those last 2 and chain 2. And here we go again. 1, pull way up, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so just work that all the way to the end. Now, actually, what I need to redo this. I need to redo this because I just remembered. My first one was a little tight, and I think it's because my chain 2s were so tight. I'll show you. My first one here is just a little tight. I've stretched and stretched and stretched on it, which is why it's not so tight anymore. But at first, it was tight like that. And it was really kind of bunching in, and I had to just sit here and go like this and really stretch it out because I already did the work. I already weaved in my ends. I'm like, dang. So I had to stretch it, which is why these stitches are so stretched, as you can see, because yeah, I just stretched on it. So to avoid that, learning from my own mistake here, make your chain twos a bit loose. Okay, now we can do the pineapple stitch. I'm going to call it what they call it. We're going back in time. There we go. Now chain two a little loose. That should hopefully help. I may have to still stretch it a little. 1, 2, 2, 3, and 4. I'm really stretching on these stitches though. Here we go, 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. And then kind of a moderately loose chain 2. And I mean, I think that's better already. It really is. Okay, I will be back after I have worked the rest of these all the way to the end, and I'll show you what we're going to do in this last one here. Okay, so once you have completed your last stitch, don't chain anything, just yarn over and work a double crochet, a US double crochet, and that's going to match how we start. Now, the pattern doesn't tell us to start with a chain 4. It wants you to just sort of know you're going to need, a chain 3, I'm sorry. It expects you to know that you're going to need that height to start creating your pineapple stitches. So in order to keep it looking right and balanced and to keep everything squared off, so to speak, you're going to want that double crochet right there, which we will ignore like it doesn't exist. It's just there for stability, sort of like walls to a house. Okay, now go ahead and weave in these ends and then come on back and look at that without really mangle stretching it like I did my other one. That worked out so much better. I'm not crazy about that, but I'm pretty sure it'll work out. I think we're going to work something in there anyway. Okay. That worked out so much better. I'll be right back and we will move on. Okay, now with the finished strips, you're going to go ahead and start. Put your new color in to that first stitch there on the edge where it will go. And what am I doing here? Okay, join your new color right into the top of that first pineapple stitch. And work a row of single crochet across. So wherever you see chains, work 1 single crochet in, or you can work around the chain if you want to. It might be better to work around the chain so that you don't have weird pops of white coming at the bottom of your work. It doesn't say how to do any of this. It's entirely up to maker's choice. Okay, 1. You know what? I totally meant to work these. With yarn under, just to make them a little smaller. Not super tight yarn under, but yarn under nonetheless. Just to make them ever so slightly more low profile. So I'm not working them super tight. 1, 2, 3 singles into the chain space, 1 into the top of the pineapple stitch, and then 1, 2, 3 into the chain space, 1 into the top of the stitch. Let's go ahead and join these strips. So you can do this any way you want. The pattern calls to work a slip stitch seam in the back, but for a little added fun texture, you could just work that right here on the front, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I think I'm going to go through both loops instead of just one loop. And with the same color, or you could even use your contrasting color. Let's see how that would look. Let's really play around with it. I mean, not all recipes are intended, you don't have to follow every recipe to its word. If you want to add chocolate chips, add them. So through both loops on both sides, I'm just going to work a single crochet. And I'm going to play around with the main color and see how that looks. I bet it's going to look really fun. But I bet it would also look great with all the same color as well. So as you can see, I'm just going through both loops on each side. We'll do a few more of these stitches and then we'll lay it flat and see what we think. And then I will go ahead and add the same color and really give you an idea of how it looks so that you don't even have to think about it. You can just be like, I loved it that way. That's what I'm gonna do. Because why not? Okay, I'm gonna work to right here. Actually, I'll complete this stitch here with the new color. And then we'll see how it looks. And I'll seam it up along the back as well, all in one go. And that way you can see how it looks seamed up along the back. And I don't think my squares are even. Like, I don't think I have them lined up right. That's okay. This is just, I will line them up right off camera and get it right. But I'm just going to do this, play around with this sort of little sampler here, just so I get an idea of which I prefer. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do now is just come around this way here, close this off, and work a few stitches just in the back, like it says, through both loops. So now I have the wrong side facing, just to get an idea, you know, just sort of a sampler. Oh, I guess I was meant to do this with slip stitches. It's fine. It's really the same difference. I'll do some with slip stitches. It's really truly the same difference. It's just a little more low profile. So now you got it all in one. Single crochet, slip stitch, done in cream, done in mint, done on the back, done on the front. Boy, you can't say I haven't showed you every way you could possibly close this off. I guess I haven't showed you every possible way yet. Please don't check me in the comments. You know, I'm just being general, not being literal. All right. So there is how it looks if worked on the back, which looks quite a bit like the picture. Here is how it looks if worked seamed with colors. I wanted to bring that up closer to you. So there's that. Just try to ignore everything you see here so that you get an idea. I really, really like that. Then there it is with just the mint. And I really like that as well. Here it is closed in the back, and that is a fun, unique texture as well. So there you have your choices, and mine, yeah, I like that. That's the one I'm gonna go with right there. That has to be the one. That just really, really stands out. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Okay, so I will be right back. I'm gonna take all of this out and seam my sample up with the cream. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the main border section. And we're gonna start with the first stitch in any corner, I mean the top corner, with your secondary color. And we're going to do exactly what we did in this area here. We're going to replicate that. So we'll start with a single crochet, chain 3, skip 2, and in the third stitch over, work a single crochet, precisely as we did before. I'll be back and we will figure out this joining section together, because it doesn't mention any of this. It just says to work it all around. You know how these patterns are. Okay, so now I'm at the point where I need to work the join, and looking at the photo, I can see here is the join here. So I want to put a stitch right on this corner, somewhere in the middle. On the side of this stitch, they have one, and then again in the corner. So it's really, you could almost say this is their version of make it work, just make it fit. I definitely want to put one into this corner here. So I'm going to skip over this space and go straight into this stitch right here. Yes. Chain 3. And I am going to put one right here on the side of this stitch. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to put one right, they have theirs going right in the middle. Don't want to make too many. We can always make whatever it is work. That's how these old patterns are. That's no joke. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to come over here and work this space right here. That still seems pretty even. 1, 2, 3. And I definitely want to put another one in this corner here. Let's see if that bunches it too much. No, we're still pretty evenly spaced. Okay, and then just carry on, skip, skip, and work my single. So I am going to do this along the bottom as well, and just make it work like I had to make it work on top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 total chain spaces going across that join. Okay, I will see you when we get back around to the beginning here, and we will move on to the next step. I'm telling you, the border is gonna be something else. I can't wait to see it completely done. Okay, there it is all laid out, and then just like we did here with these pineapple stitches, we call them puff stitches, we're gonna go ahead and make some more. And I lost my yarn. There it is. Okay, make some more exactly how we did before. Start with a chain of 3 to get you built up there. 1, 2, 3, and then really pull up on them stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, there we go. Just pull through 8 and then. Okay, so this is going to be the first one of this corner. Whenever I work my way around, I'm going to work 1 here and 1 into this stitch right here, this single crochet stitch, so that we have 3 in each corner, as you can see. Or actually, it looks like they have 3 in 1 stitch, don't they? Maybe we'll try that. When I get to my first corner, we'll play around with it. Like, I've not made this before. The only thing I made beforehand were these. So I am tackling this pattern with you. So whenever I get to my first corner, we'll see if it does genuinely look like there are 3 into 1 stitch. We'll give that a try. We might end with 3 in 1 stitch over here and then a chain 2 to join. I'll be right back. I'm going to work these pineapples all the way to the end, and I'm going to show you their pineapple stitch. There you go. cluster or pineapple stitch. Well, we hear cluster so much, I prefer pineapple stitch. Isn't that fun? Okay, guys, I'll be back whenever I'm done working all the way across the top and we get to the first corner, and then we'll just play with it and see what happens. Yeah, you can really see the difference between the Tunisian simple stitch and then not having one. That's why I recommend. And then if I flip this around, see there how it just looks better? These both have the Tunisian simple stitch across the top. So yeah, that's why I recommend starting with one. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so now I've made it to the corner. I did go ahead and work that last space just before the corner. Now let's work 3 of these all into one stitch, separated by a chain 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Yeah, that's gonna work. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and into the next chain space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, I think that's correct. Yeah, that's what I would do. That's correct. So when you get down to the very beginning, just work 3 of these pineapple stitches all into that last single crochet, chain 2, and join here at the top of your pineapple stitch with a slip stitch, and then come on back and we will move on to the next step. Okay, so all of my puff stitches are now worked around, so we'll go ahead and tie off the white and then re-add the blue. I wonder if I can do this with, yeah, I'm gonna have to weave in ends anyway. Okay, so let's go ahead and start in this corner here. And I'm gonna grab my blue, my mint green, soft mint. And we're going to work this stitch again, the single crochet plus chain 3. Well, there we go. Okay, so single crochet, chain 3, and I am starting in the space just after the last corner made. And jump over the top of the pineapple stitch and work another single crochet. So we're going to work this all around. Come on back whenever you have worked all the way around. And as far as the corner stitches go, you're going to work a single crochet, chain 3, single crochet, making a little loop coming right off the tip of that corner there. Okay? Super easy. Okay, so I worked myself all around. Now this pattern, again, these patterns are always vague. They tell you generally what they want you to do without a lot of detail. So it says right here, 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds using colored cotton as first row at the corners in the 3rd and 4th rows, 1 single crochet. I know it says DC, it's single crochet. 3 chains, 1 single crochet into the 2nd pineapple stitch, and all this and that, but it doesn't tell you how to join the rounds. It doesn't tell you how to finish things off. So here's what we're going to do to finish each round. Go ahead and slip stitch into your starting single crochet, slip stitch into the first chain, and then go around the chain and work a single crochet. Chain 3, next chain space over, single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and mark this first stitch just so I know exactly where to join next time. So mark your first stitch, and then whenever you come back around to the beginning, you're going to join here, slip stitch into your first stitch, work a single crochet, chain 3, and so there you go. We already did round 3, which is right here. This is round 4. The next round will be 5. We're looking for a total of 3 rows. Let me show you the photo. We're looking for a total of 3 rows of this work. Here's what we're doing now. It'll be easier if I point with this. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to work some more of those pineapple stitches on top of all of this. Okay. So continue to work in this fashion for this row and the next row, and then you will change color to the white where we're going to work some more of those pineapple stitches. Okay, got to my first corner here. I thought I'd show you how we're going to do the corner stitch. Just work your single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet into the corner stitch, and then carry on all around. And that's how the corner stitch should look. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, now that we have the 3 rows done, let's go ahead and work some more of the pineapple stitches. And here is the corner. Let's go ahead and work our first pineapple in the stitch just after the corner. That way our last stitch is working the 3 into the corner, chain 2, and join. It looks like we won't need the blue anymore for the rest of the pattern, or in my case, the soft mint. Okay. Again, we're going to start this with a chain 4 as sort of a builder. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then go ahead and start. Work 1 into each chain 3 space all around, working 3 into each corner, separated by a chain 2. And then join to the top of your starting pineapple stitch right here. Okay, so here is how we're going to map out this next section. This next section, the book tells us that we need to start at a corner. Each corner will always get 3 double crochet, all 4 corners. Each scallop of those large scallops on the outside require 13 stitches to complete, and we also have to account for 3 stitches to skip between each scallop. We're going to work 1 round of double crochet all around as the foundation for our scallop round, but we have to pretty much make sure that we have enough stitches. So it tells us to cut and start in the corner with your 3 stitches. Now, each scallop is 13 stitches. So I figure that is 6 stitches on each side for a corner, with the one in the middle being number 13. And then of course you'll need to account for the 3 stitches we're going to skip once we do start the scallop edge. So we're going to work a round of double crochet all around, and as you can see, I'm going to need 6 stitches on each side of each corner, with the 7th stitch, or with the 13th stitch being the one in the middle. So each one of these is 13 stitches across, and then you can see right here we're going to skip 3 stitches between the scallops. Okay, so I didn't count this out all the way around. I'm going to do it as I go because I imagine each side is going to be a little different. I don't know. You know, nothing is perfect. So here is my numbers. I only have this in here to lock my stitch in. So I started off with 3 double crochet. This is going to be where our scallop will be worked. So I have 1, I'm not going to count that one in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1/2 of my scallop on this corner. Then I have to skip 3 stitches. I'm going to ignore this chain right here. 1, 2, 3. In that 4th stitch over, I put a stitch marker. That's the start of my next scallop. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I then have to skip 3 once we get to the scallop portion. So imagine these are all double crochets worked. 1, 2, 3. Now here is the first stitch for my next scallop, the next set of 13. So I counted that out, skip 3, 13, skip 3, 13, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and I only need 6 on this side. But as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have too many stitches. Actually 8, 9, because this corner will have 3 coming off of it. So that's going to be 8, 9 for that one stitch right here of the 3. So I have 3 stitches too many, so I'm going to have to do some double crochet decreases and eliminate 3 stitches on this side in order for my stitch count to be just right to work my scallop. So now hopefully I explain that in a way that you can understand. Okay, so it's the next day. I spent quite some time last night practicing and working out the outer scallops. I can get the corners just fine. I can't make sense of the ones that go along. I have tried and tried and tried. So I figure, and I've come this far, I'm not going to can this video because this is a blanket still worth making and having. So I came up with an alternate. See what you think about it. I'll raise you up. I worked 2 scallops and then I worked some of this similar open work across them. What do you think? You can make this all in one color. You can do your scallops in the blue and do this in the white. There's a lot of possibilities. You can do your first row of pineapple stitches in the blue and then everything else in the white with this in the blue. You can really mix and match it. But do you think this is okay? I'm going to show you how I did this, and I am really sorry. I cannot make heads or tails of how to work the scallops along the edge. I think this is the edge here I was working along. Yeah, this is the edge I was working along. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure it made sense. I'm sure it does make sense, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And again, if you want to check out this pattern, you can find this book online. I found it on Amazon for like $20. So you can find this book online. So I'll show you how to work the corner and how I did this part. I don't know if you like it. The reason I have this hesitation in my voice is because I feel like this is so disappointing, you know. But whenever the lemonade just ain't making, you got to just go ahead and make a different kind of drink. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm making another drink, dang it. I hope that this is okay. Whenever it's all done, it might look more exciting than this. I don't know, because I'm not live. I'm not getting any live feedback, so I don't know. And I don't have anyone's face to look at to gauge a reaction. So I don't know. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do the corners, and I'll show you how to do this part. Okay, so for this portion of the pattern, we're going to turn it to the wrong side out, and you can see what looks like knit stitches. Or actually, forgive me, it looks like purl stitches. That's the wrong side out. And we have our 3 stitches in the center here that's on top of this puff stitch. The stitch just after that, go ahead and join your yarn and chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, we have our 3 unworked stitches. Now the stitch just after that, so it'll be the 4th stitch over. Join with a slip stitch. Okay, and we're going to work 1 slip stitch into the next stitch over. Now chain 1, turn, and we're going to work 8 double crochet separated by a chain 1 US double crochet into the ring. So that was 1, 2, chain 1, 3, chain 1, 4. So you can see how that looks. We need a total of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more. Okay, now we're going to chain 1 after we work our last double crochet and work 1 slip stitch into each of the next 2 stitches. So this is the stitch here that we are already worked into. So the next 2 stitches over. 1 and 2. Okay, now we're going to chain 2 and turn, and into each one of these chain 1 spaces we're going to work one of those pineapple stitches, and we're not going to yank up on them as high, about like that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull through 8, leaving 2 on the hook, then pull through 2, chain 2. Into the next space over, we repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2. Next space over, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're looking for a total of 9 of these pineapple stitches, separated by a chain 2. I'll be right back. Okay, finished my last pineapple stitch. Now we chain 2, skip 2 double crochet, and work 1 slip stitch into each of the next 2 after that. So that's how it should look. You skip 2, then you work a slip stitch into the next 2. Now we chain 2, turn, and we're going to work 1 pineapple stitch into each of the first 4 spaces, then 2 into each of the next 3 spaces, and then 1 into each of the next remaining spaces, all separated by a chain 2. So I will work 1 into the first 4, and I will be right back. Okay, so now I have the 4 worked in, and over the next 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, we work 2 into each, still separated by 2 chains. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2, and into the same space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and repeat that in this space and the next space, and then just work 1 into each of the last 3 spaces. 1, 2, and this is a last space to work into down here, 3. And that completes the corner scallop. You can, oh, actually just come back and I'll show you where you have to work into over here, and then that will complete it. So go ahead and finish working the rest of those pineapples, and I'll be right back. Okay, so after you have worked your last pineapple, chain 2, skip, this is the, you've already worked in this double, skip the next double, and in the next one, work 1 slip stitch, and then that's it. Weave in your ends, and then I'm going to go ahead and work the last corner, but come back and I'll show you how we work from corner to corner. Okay, so I'm going to start with the front side facing, and I'm going to join right here into this joining, top of this joining double crochet right here. Join with a single crochet, US single crochet, chain 3, skip 2, in a 3rd stitch over, work a single crochet, chain 3, skip 2, work a single crochet all the way to the other side here, and then come on back and I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so the first time I did this, it lined up perfect. This time I have 1 extra stitch, and so you can see I have 1, 2, 3, but I need to join right here in this joining stitch. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that and jump over 3 instead of 2 and join with a single crochet, and it's fine. Now chain 2, go into the next chain space and work a single crochet, chain 3, and turn. Just ignore that chain 2, come back down into the chain 3, and start working your single crochets plus chain 3, just like that. Now we're going to do this a total of 5 spaces. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On both sides we should have 5 single crochet worked up this way with chain 2s. And of course I'll show you that when we get down to the other side. So just keep chaining 3, single crochet into the next space. Okay, I'll be right back. I made my way over to the other end. Now I'm going to chain 3, and into this next chain space I'm going to work my single crochet, chain 2, come up the next chain space. Sorry. Work another single crochet, chain 3, turn, ignore this chain 2 here and into the chain 3 space. Start working your links again, and now you have created another space. And so you'll just do this on both sides. Be right back. So worked my way over to the other side, chain 3 into that space, work a single crochet, chain 3, work a single crochet into the next chain space up, chain 2, another single crochet into the next chain space up, chain 3 and turn, ignore the chain 2 and work into the chain 3 space. There you go. So once you have filled 1, 2, 3, I got to do 2 more, 5, then that's it. You're done and you can move on to the next side. Just do that over and over. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish working the rest of this, and I'm going to work both of my long edges, and then I will show you some reveal shots, and hopefully this makes for a fair enough substitute. Again, I'm going to leave a link for the Amazon link. It's not affiliated in any way. It's literally just the link I used, not the link I used, but it's just where I bought my book, and you can pick the book up. There's a lot of really, really great stuff in that book if you are interested. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead and finish working this all around, and I'll show you how it looks. Okay, I'm really having to hold my phone up to show you how it looks. And of course, I just don't have enough room on my couch studio. There it is, and I absolutely love it. With everything completely done, it definitely looks so much better now than with just the one side done. It was a little bit like, I don't know about this, but now I know about this. Now I like it a lot. Okay, let me remount my phone. Okay, what do we think now that we got to see it all complete? I really like it. I feel like it creates a nice smooth curve that's very unique. I've never actually seen anything like that before. Very, very cool. I used acrylic, but I would imagine if you were to use like a cotton, you can really block this. And yes, I know that you can block acrylic, but it's just, this is a sample. I'm not going to go that far. Blocking acrylic is a little bit more difficult than blocking cotton. It requires a steam and an iron. But anyways, I really like this. Okay, you guys, now I'm dying to hear what you all think. And again, go ahead and check out that link in my description box to the Amazon storefront where I found this book. Here is what the book is called. Right there. And it is by this man, Miss Man. I was going to say Miss Ma'am. And it really gives you her whole history. I can just show you some of that if you care to read it. It's really interesting. I love the fact that it has her sort of a Cliff's Notes version of her biography here in the beginning. It really does cover so much. Plain sewing, mending. If you look up here, you can see the topic of that section, embroidery on white materials. I mean, it's just very detailed. Let's see here. We have quite a bit of embroidery on white materials, linen embroidery, and tapestry, applique work, gold embroidery, embroidery on silk and velvet. That's more linen. We have knitting. Knitting is a rather small section. I'm just kind of wondering if knitting wasn't really her thing. I know if you read that forward, her main thing was embroidery. Like that is what she went to school to learn. She opened up an embroidery shop. Like that was her main thing. So I'm thinking knitting was probably not her biggest passion. Perhaps she liked crochet a little bit more, considering crochet is a little bit more, there's a little bit more to crochet than there is to the knitting section. She has tatting in here, pillow laces, needle made laces. She's really into that, sort of applying art onto something. Open work on linen. Yeah. Oh, we have filet. Very interesting. It would seem the type of filet that she does is the type where you sort of create your canvas and then go back in and sew in your designs, like embroider your designs. Yeah, because this is like embroidery filet. So she was really into embroidery. Yeah, that is embroidery filet right there, where you're going to make these strips and then go back in with another color and just like you're doing embroidery and add the design later. Yeah, see, you add it. A bit beyond my knowledge. I'm aware of it, but it is definitely, you can see she's got the needle here. She's physically showing you that this is how you do it. You go around and then, yeah, and see. So that's embroidery filet. So she's just really mostly into, oh, would you look at that? She's really mostly into embroidery. But if you are as well, or macrame, she's got some beautiful macrame projects in here. My goodness. Really good for working the bottom of a curtain. She just has a lot of stuff in here if you're into tatting. I don't think her tatting section is too big. Yeah, no, it's really quite thin. So that's about it. Let's see here, needlework trimmings. Very interesting. I really haven't checked out the whole of this book yet. Okay, so that is that book there, DMC. Check it out if you want to. I will leave a link down below. It was a private Amazon seller, so they likely don't have that. I bought the book for $20. I saw other sellers on there selling the book for $25. Others were selling it for $19. Others were selling it for up to $40. So it's individual sellers determining what they want to sell the book for. And it's Amazon, so there's no bargaining. You could try eBay where you can bargain, or Etsy. They might have one of these on Etsy where you can bargain with the seller, but Amazon, you're not going to be able to talk them down on their price if you feel like $40 isn't worth it. So, okay, that's that. Let me know what you think of this gorgeous blanket, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.